thank you. I actually have invited a guest to come along with me as well. His name's Sebastian, and I'm going to have him introduce himself so you could find him. And could we pin him as well? Go ahead, Sebastian.
Oh, hi. I'm Sebastian Rodriguez. I'm a youth founder or youth ambassador for MOC. I've been working with MOC for a few years now, and I'm taking on this project of the Youth Innovation Center as the youth ambassador.
Thanks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll learn. Sebastian's going to share a little bit more later on as we get into the presentation. But he's, as you'll learn, is an excellent resource. Let me get this to full screen. So is everybody able to see my screen? Okay, great. All right, so I am sharing as Sebastian set up for me, our Youth Innovation Center. So this is a long time in the making of a youth space that I will give you a brief history of. Here you're looking at our actual fundraising case statement. I'm using this because it really encapsulates a lot of the information that we were looking to share here today. So it'll be a little more text heavy, but I'll walk us through it. You don't have to worry about reading through. So essentially, the Youth Innovation Center was born of making opportunity count, inheriting a neighborhood youth or a neighborhood center that also operated youth programming. It was the Cleghorn Neighborhood Center, which was founded in 1968. And I share that as an important piece because it was just such a long time community asset. It was run by the United Neighbors of Fitchburg. And essentially what they did in this space is they operated a youth center, but it was also because the neighborhood really served immigrant families. It was predominantly that a long time ago. It was French Canadian, and then now it's predominantly Latinx. It was a source for information and referral. It was translation services. It was adult education classes, and it just really was this community hub of like this valuable resource in this neighborhood. That youth program also served about 100+ youth in their out of school time programming through after school programs and summer camps. Unfortunately, that entity had to shut down. And during that process, Making Opportunity Count stepped in to be able to assume responsibility to keep the youth program component open. We also have the ability to support the information and referral, obviously, through our CAP work. However, we couldn't operate it specifically out of that facility. We are very close to it as well. But we really wanted to make sure that that piece of having the youth have a safe place to attend after school was our priority. And then we realized that we inherited a building that was significantly deteriorating, and it really became inoperable. It was flooding, it was having electrical issues, it was having HVAC issues, and it was just beyond us being fiscally responsible with the repairs. So we decided that we needed to make a change with it. So we'll get into what our plan is for it, but just to give you a little bit background on the need that exists. So this is in the city of Fitchburg, which we have a lot of statistics over in this area of Fitchburg high school students, 60% being economically disadvantaged compared to the state's rates. The Fitchburg youth living in poverty, 1.6 times that of the state. We have a lot of other data that we had looked at specific to this neighborhood. Being a neighborhood that sees even higher rates of poverty and of unemployment and lower rates of educational attainment and earnings. It's also a neighborhood of color. And so we realized we started to take some of that data, and then we started to look at the data more through the lens of COVID and the impact that that was having on certain populations, and particularly within this neighborhood and within youth. And so we were seeing additional issues that were rising, and that this need was even greater now. Particularly when it comes to a youth innovation center, we started to realize that because of the hybrid model, or when students were going remote, we were able to get data about having families of color had less access to devices, to reliable internet, for remote learning, never mind doing something else, which is what this Youth Innovation Center is about, is doing something else and doing something more. The need also existed because we had started to realize, based on our programming, that once youth reach the age of about 13 years old, they don't really remain committed to the traditional after-school programs. And so in our programs that we run, as well as in the public school programs, we just saw a drop off around that age. And we consider that age to be a really critical time. We call it emerging adulthood. So we decided that we would make an effort to really create a space for that 14 to 21-year-old age range that would keep them engaged in some out of school time activities that are less traditional, and really, give them that meaningful connection, access to resources, and all of those types of things that can really help with the positive youth development. So, and then we did also have our community needs assessment that really supported a project like this, because after school programming, employment, and education and training were identified as 3 of the top 4 community needs in our area in 2020. So we target each of these areas through this Youth Innovation Center. So our vision, these are some renderings that we have and some drawings that we have available, but essentially we are creating in this space a unique makerspace designed, operated, and led by youth that encourages them to explore, foster, and enterprise their passions and skills to position them for success as they transition into adulthood. Essentially, we are trying to create a youth space that is welcoming, that is a place where teens and young adults want to be, but at the same time, we are equipping this space and them with the resources to just explore the talents that they have, the passions that they have, the skills that they have, or the skills that they want to have. And so we're making this a home for these resources, but also for people to be in that space that can help grow them as well. So these are the core components that we have identified as being critical to what we're going to be doing in this space. Race equity and social justice has become one of the primary core components that we're going to have, simply because we realize the neighborhood needs, we realize the population that we're serving. And so we really wanted to make that just one of one of the ways that we're just doing that across all programming. So we have asked 3 Pyramids, which is a local activist-led agency that provides social and racial justice advocacy and community development work, to lead that part of the programming. And what's great is that in this drawing right here, the white space here, if you can see, is the Youth Innovation Center. And then this side area is also housed under the same roof. And that is where 3 Pyramids is actually going to co-locate right in the same building. So they're going to be there permanently to be a resource, and the youth will have access. This is where community-based projects could be happening, leadership workshops, things like that. The other core component is this youth empowerment and leadership model. It's a by youth for youth model. And essentially, Sebastian's going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But essentially what happened is we realized we had this building that needed to be renovated and upgraded. We obviously knew we wanted to do something great with it. As a leadership team, we had lots of ideas, but we knew that first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that youth were going to want to be in the space and do the things that they wanted to do in the space. And we realized very, very early on, when we were just having these conceptual design meetings, that we needed the youth to tell us, because for as much as we had some perspective and we worked with youth, we did not really know exactly what youth want without hearing their voices and without them telling us. And so what we did is we established a youth founder group, where we have many youth programs, and we have teens and young adults that work with our programs in many ways as peer educators, health educators, and working in our after school programming and summer camps. And so we asked them to go ahead and take the lead, and we set them, I'll have Sebastian talk about it a little more, but we set them up with our consultant to really design what this was going to be programmatically, as well as the look of it. And they've really taken the lead here in what this final product is going to be. Other core components, we have our philosophy is really expose and explore. So in this space, we will have a multimedia maker lab, which youth are going to be able to focus on. Some of the things that have risen to the top have been a focus on digital arts, graphic design, audio and video production, podcasting, and in that kind of field. So we do have a media room that we will be putting into the Youth Innovation Center. And then we also have a secondary room that's going to be the makerspace. Another piece has been arts. That has been something that's been requested highly of the youth during these design sessions. So this would be a dry studio area that will allow them to go ahead and explore a lot of their passions when it comes to the arts. And then we also have this right here in the rendering shows that this is essentially a performance area where we've created it to be flex space. So that way we are able to have youth, if they want to have some sort of musical performance, or if they want to do some sort of arts performance, we are able to kind of convert the space to be able to support holding a larger event and showcasing and displaying their talent right in the space. And then also with that flexibility comes the opportunity for physical and emotional wellness. Yoga classes have been they've been asking about that, or some sort of fitness programs that we could run. And so we really made this space a way that we can kind of just have it be fluid. And as interests change, we can go ahead and change with them. Also in this space, which I think is important to share, is that we will also be holding, this will be a satellite office for a mental health clinician. And we do have a behavioral health center that we recently launched. And then we also will be having a community health worker and navigator working out of this space as well. We felt as though that brought back the information and referral that the United Neighbors of Fitchburg initially had back from 1968. So we just felt that really, we have a strong focus on the Youth Innovation Center, but also the access to these other components that we know are really important to families, and having them housed in this same space that's going to hopefully bring back this community asset that's really well trusted, to be a place to encourage people to come. The other core components are entrepreneurship and workforce growth. While we are creating this space for youth to explore their talents, at the same time, we feel as though by building in the resources, we are naturally really nurturing the growth in some of these technical fields. But we also are, the other piece of it here for the core component is mentorship and networking. So we have been working with our North Central Chamber of Commerce to provide, to talk to businesses about micro mentorships and having a mentor in residence for, as many professions, and especially from local businesses as possible, to put those people, not only resources, but also people in the same space with the youth to be able to, again, nurture those skills and the development, and really be a positive connection for the youth and helping them to even further build their skills and explore what interests them. So our progress, this has been a long time in the making. We did start concept exploration sessions back around, I don't even know when, but 2018-19. We quickly then shifted into handing that over to youth founders and recruited them and had them participate in design sessions. And then we did move the design sessions into actual interior and exterior designs, and just began the process of this construction build out. During that time is when we also started to bring in partners, which in one of my slides, I'll share with you the number of partners that we have, but that's really the essential component of what we're doing here, because we are a human service provider and we have a lot of expertise, but in some of these creative fields, we don't necessarily have the expertise to do this as well as we want to. So we've really extended a number of partnerships out to the greater community to support us. So, and one of the primary one is that partnership with Three Pyramids to really bring that lens of race, equity, and social justice across all programming and what we're doing. We were able to start our demolition. We actually had some Eagle Scouts who had supported that, and we had begun, and this was where we were at when COVID hit. And that halted progress, as it has with, you know, every other project that we've heard. For the most part, it halted our progress, construction wise, as well as program development. You know, trying to keep everybody engaged and moving forward when we were on a pause was a little bit difficult. But what I don't have here is that we did have other bullets where we have gone ahead and we've fortunately been able to just resume, to move forward. Things are quickly moving now. We are about 8 weeks out from opening our doors to the Youth Innovation Center, which is really exciting. In that time, what we've been able to do, you know, is for us to speak on behalf of Impact. I think during that time, the key thing is we have retained a lot of our youth founders. We are recruiting new youth ambassadors who are going to be carrying on this model of helping us to build the programs. We've been investing in their leadership and training. And so that's really where we've been at. And as well as, I think in September is when we kicked off resuming our construction. So I had this great video that I wanted to show you guys of the youth founders in action during their design sessions. And they were doing their storyboards and they were putting their sticky notes up of what they would like to do. And then when we tested it, Sebastian shared with me that we can't hear anything in it. So it's not going to be really valuable to you. But I think what would be valuable is hearing, we have a youth founder right here with us. And I've asked him to just share what the Youth Founders Group does and, you know, what they have been doing and any of his sites, because he's got great perspective on it. So Sebastian, I will leave you to go ahead and share a little bit right now.
Okay, hi again, everybody. As Nicole said, you know, a lot of this was youth led, and I think with a lot of we had supervision, but the main important thing was this was a youth innovation center, and I feel like with all of us being hands-on, a lot of it was hands-on physical work, every day, countless hours, just working towards something we all loved and had passion for. And this is a personal like topic for a lot of us because you know, growing up in the neighborhoods we grew up in, it was just, you know, tough watching us disengage. We weren't as interested in certain things as, you know, certain youth were getting older, you know, we were turning our attention to other stuff and essentially just growing up, but we just didn't have a direction. And I feel like the Youth Innovation Center pulls us in the right direction or a great direction. And we were brainstorming. We got a group together of the youth founders and we just brainstormed. And at one point, this was just an idea. This wasn't a thing, and it became a thing. And as it became a thing, you know, we were more engaged. Everyone was getting more engaged. We were getting the community more engaged. We were going out of our way also to do surveys on our own social media, not being asked to by MOC or by our supervision or the people leading the groups. And we were getting a lot of great feedback of what the youth could benefit from in today's community. And a lot of them were engaged in it, and a lot of them were loving the idea of us being, you know, more modern. You know, a lot of, you know, youth centers around here are, you know, just focused on certain things and not really like they're not broad enough. And I feel like with all the meetings and the brainstorming and, you know, our pinning down ideas with sticky notes, it was just all ideas, and it's got brought into a real thing. And it's just actually crazy that Nicole said we're 8 weeks out from opening the doors because, you know, it's felt like a long process and like COVID delayed it, but you know, it feels good to be in the right step. And yeah, it was the impact on youth and the opportunity it's creating for us, not only, you know, with leadership training we were sitting through, on hand training. We were being taught to like how to be better leaders or how to, you know, bring out leadership in other youth, because a lot of people were, you know, engaged in it. And I feel like the opportunity it's given us with the trainings and the work skills and you know, even some job opportunities. You know, a lot of either youth founders are getting older, so we are being offered to, you know, be at the site and, you know, help the youth and just be more hands-on. And our brainstorming and our mind maps, we made a lot of mind maps on, you know, what we'd love to see. And it just, you know, the steps and the growth from the youth founders. And now we're looking for youth ambassadors, and a lot of people are just super engaged. It feels super good to be a part of this.
Thanks, Sebastian. And one of the next slides that I'll show you, Sebastian was actually, he took a real lead in this event right here. So just to really regain our momentum after COVID, and when we were able to re-engage in the project, we decided that we would really just celebrate that opportunity to just kick off the renovations again. So we did a wall breaking ceremony. And I'm sharing this here. It's in our campaign, but I mean, it honestly was just a really inspiring event. And that's Sebastian actually over here breaking the wall. Sebastian, if you want to go ahead and just explain what was going on there briefly, that would be helpful so people know what they're seeing here.
Yes, okay. So essentially, you know, when we were brainstorming, in our heads, you know, there was a lot of barriers and obstacles to overcome, especially with, you know, the Youth Innovation Center, the pandemic, you know, youth being like, with the pandemic, them being disengaged, and with a lot of things, you know, school. So, you know, when we brought up the Innovation Center, everyone was interested, but, you know, a lot of people ask the questions that sometimes people are afraid to ask. And they're like, what about this? And what about that? And we were brainstorming, we were like, we should make a wall. And we didn't know it was going to be a physical wall, you know, us. So we were just like, oh, it's an idea. Let's just make a wall because it's in our head. We were like, let's make a wall. And basically, you know, it's the wall breaking ceremony. But in our youth founders' heads, we were more so breaking stereotypes, breaking barriers. And we just made a wall that, you know, was maybe things that were, you know, doubting, which, you know, it comes with everything in life, you know. So we made a wall that was just like lack of resources, this and that, like what we were being told by youth, like, oh, are you sure this is going to be a real thing? And, you know, we put all those barriers and stereotypes together, and we had a great ceremony. We broke the wall. I was told to have a nice form in that picture. Don't want to brag about it, but I was told that. And yeah, you know, we got together as a community. The uprise from that ceremony was amazing. To see a lot of youth, you know, just click even more because of that. They were not expecting it, as we weren't either. But yeah, we just broke the wall, the innovation for our generation, and yeah, our lack of resources, our doubts, our stereotypes. We, you know, showed youth we can overcome that, and you know, we broke the barriers, broke the wall down, and it was a great event.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it was attended by our Senator John Cronin, State Rep Michaud, and our Fitchburg Mayor Stephen DiNatale. And I mean, honestly, they were our guests of honor who spoke, but Sebastian and another youth founder, Jordan, actually were the last ones to speak, and they pretty much blew away the delegation. So it was a great ceremony. It really revived the project and the momentum that we needed, and really regained that you know, confidence in the project for the youth, but then also brought us more publicity as we needed to really have the city involved in this project as well, which I will have here. I'm going to end with our partners, just because that was, as I said before, one of the key things is that we only have a certain level of expertise that we can bring to this. And so we've just engaged the greater community in all facets that we can. So I have spoken already about 3 pyramids. Other partners include Fitchburg Art Museum. Because we have the makerspace, they are going to be really helping us with their expertise in art projects, artist connections. So one of the key projects we have right now is we do need to have artwork to go on the walls. And so we are connecting the youth founders that were interested in the art component of programming to Fitchburg Art Museum's professional artists that they know, to be able to drive that project and actually create the art that will be on the walls. And they're going to support us with ongoing arts programming, and also have offered studio and gallery arrangements for us to be able to showcase some of the student artists that we might have. Fitchburg Access Television, FATV, they want to participate in supporting us with the video production programming and that side of, or that field, because that is really outside of our scope. So they have decided to be a partner. Indian Hill Music School and Center will provide music production programming. So it's not going to be the traditional music classes and instruments and music, reading, but this is more about music production, especially if the youth are going to want to explore having their own YouTube stations or producing their own music. So they've agreed to be a partner in that. Our North Central Chamber of Commerce has agreed to supporting us with mentorship connections, helping us to do that micro mentorship programming or mentors in residence. We're looking at one of the first things to have is a young professionals event where we're going to host on site at the center and then really pitch and try to have some of the young professionals in our community commit to some of these micro mentorships. The counseling center at MOC is also, it is an entity of MOC, but we really have their support in providing that access on site in the, under the same roof with a satellite clinician that will able to be that walk in, talk to somebody type of support right then and there, screenings or even group sessions they've considered doing. So that's going to be an important piece of it for us as well. And then really piggybacking off of the wall breaking ceremony, I really do find like that was one of the turning points for really getting our city engaged. They were happy that we were a part of it. They loved that we were taking on this project. They knew how important it was to the neighborhood. We had yet to really firm up the a commitment, and really it was very important to us to do so. So through ARPA funding, we actually recently received a sizable grant to be able to support the full completion of the building, not just the Youth Innovation Center component. And then we did have very shortly after we had our wall breaking ceremony, we were contacted by our state representative's office that the project was earmarked for state ARPA funds to be able to support that as well. So we are, after a long time coming, we just have been seeing a lot of marked success over the past 6 months, and we are very, very happy that we are going to be opening these doors soon and able to share, hopefully some insight soon on what that greater impact is going to be.